Now the game Mancala ends when one of the players no longer has any stones on their side of the board. When that happens, if there are any stones on the other player's side, they claim those and they go into their Mancala, and the player with the most stones in their Mancala wins the game. So in this video, I'd like to deal with this end of game situation. So what we need to do is check the number of stones on each side of the board. And to do this, I'm going to create a for loop, but first let me add a comment checking for the end of the game, just to signal that's what's going on. So now this time, I'm going to create a for loop using an index variable, let me call it j, and then I'm going to use the range function to go through 6 values. And what this will do, it will run my for loop 6 times. The value of j will go from 0 to 5. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, which is great because those are the indices for player 1's side of the board. Now actually before this for loop, let me define 2 new variables, side 1 for player 1's side, and I'm going to set that equal to 0, and side 2 for player 2's side. Again, I'll set that equal to 0. So now in my for loop, what I'll do is add to side 1 any stones that might be in a bin on side 1. So index j, the value of index j is going from 0 to 5 through my for loop. So side 1 will start at 0, and then if there are any stones on player 1's side, they'll get added onto the side 1 variable. I want to do something similar for side 2. But for player 2, I don't want the index j, I want j plus 7. So this should add up the amounts in the bins with indices 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. The bins on player 2's side of the board. And now I need to check the value of side 1 and side 2 to see after all of this activity if those are still 0. If either of them is, it means the game is over because one of the sides is empty. And we can actually do this all together. I'm going to check to see if, as an integer, side 1 is equal to 0. And then let me use an OR connector this time to check to see if side 2, as an integer, is equal to 0. So if either one of those conditions is true, the code inside the if statement will run. That's what the OR connector means. So let me start by setting the playing variable equal to false, because effectively this is the end of the game. And then I'd like to add to the bin amount at index 6 anything that might be on side 1. Remember, 6 is the index of player 1's Mancala, so if there was anything on player 1's side, it will now be recorded in the side 1 variable, and I want to add that to player 1's Mancala. In a similar way, the bin amount at index 13 is player 2's Mancala, so if there's anything left on player 2's side, I want to add that to player 2's Mancala. And then let me run a for loop with index k and values in the range again from 0 to 5. So range 6 is going to run through the values of k, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And in this for loop, I want to set the bin amount at index k equal to 0, and also the bin amount at index k plus 7. So this should effectively check to see if the conditions for the end of the game have been met. It will clear the board, and we'll be able to determine the winner by seeing which player has more in their Mancala. So now I'd like to add a print line after the while loop for the game to just indicate that the game is over at this point. We'll do a little bit more for this later on, but let me just say the game is over. And quitting this current version of the game and running our new code, let's see what we see. So now, in order to see that our end of the game code is working, we're going to need to clear one side of the board. So I'm going to work to clear player 1's side. All right, well, this should do it. Player 1 is about to lose all their pieces. And we see the game is over. What we didn't see is a final printout of the board. And so that's what I'm going to add in the next tutorial.